Now let us see what is the quantitative applications. So the main quantitative application of the UV spectrum actually, it is useful to determine the concentration of some other colored solutions. So we know that many of the compounds can able to exhibit color whenever that particular compound absorbing from the visible region. So by using this technique, so we can able to determine the concentration of the unknown colored solutions by using UV visible absorption spectrum. So that we will see. So in order to understand that point, we have to understand what is visible spectrum. We have seen the electromagnetic spectrum. So electromagnetic spectrum consists various electromagnetic radiations from microwave radiation, from radio waves to the gamma radiations. But among those, one of the radiation actually visible light. So, but this visible light actually combination of different colors. So we know that, so from 400 to 800 generally defined as visible radiation, and 200 to or 400 nanometers. So don't confuse, sometimes I am writing like 380 nanometers, sometimes I am writing like 400 nanometers, because so this is a broad range 200 to 400, but if you go to the specific range, that is actually 200 to 380 nanometers and 380 to 760 called visible light. So in general we can able to define this from 400 to 800 actually called visible range or visible spectrum. So these are the 7 different colors like this. So violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange, red, and here also we can see all these colors in this manner. So generally if any compound, we have some compound, one particular compound, if it is absorbing visible light, so what is the meaning of visible light? From the 400 to 800, if this compound absorbing in the range from the 400 nanometers to 800 nanometers, so generally that particular object actually colored in nature, depending upon the what type of radiation that is actually absorbing. But so whatever the color that is absorbing, we are not seeing that particular color. For example, let us say this compound absorbing red color. So this compound actually absorbing red color. What is the meaning of red color? 620 to 78 nanometers. If this compound absorbing red color in this manner, so the corresponding compound actually looks like a green color compound. We will see green color only, but actually that compound absorbing red color. So that means whatever the color we are seeing, that is not the actual absorbed color. We are seeing actually corresponding complementary color. So complementary color means once the compound absorbing one particular radiation from the visible light, the remaining radiation is actually coming outside. The remaining all radiation actually coming outside, and those 6 radiations, because we have a 7 wavelengths like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Among these 7 wavelengths, if one of the wavelength absorbed by the molecule, the remaining 6 wavelengths actually coming outside, and those 6 wavelengths actually combining each other and producing some resultant color, that is actually we are seeing. So what are the color we are seeing? That is actually complementary color. It is not the absorbed radiation. So how to understand if you are seeing one of the object like a green color compound, how we know that that is actually absorbing red color? So for that purpose, this will actually useful to understand what is the corresponding complementary color. For example, according to this wheel, if any compound absorbing a red color like this from 620 to 800 nanometers, generally it is like it shows actually green color like this. If any compound absorbing blue light like this from 430 to 490, blue light like this, generally it is like a orange color compound. If any object absorbing a green color, that actually looks like a red color in nature. So like this visible light will actually useful to understand what is the complementary color we are seeing once the compound absorbing any radiation from the visible light. So this we have to keep in our mind, and now let us see how these visible or absorption spectra useful to estimate the amount of compound developed in the some other colored solutions. Okay, so this particular technique actually called colorimetry. So generally we have a alkalimetry or acidimetry or titrimetry, complexometry, redox titration. We have different types of titration. So basically metry means something, actually this is nothing but actually measurement. So knowing something. So colorimetry means in this experiment we are actually determining the color intensity of the given compound. We are depending on the color intensity. We are measuring the corresponding absorption values. So we have to measure the absorption values. The absorption values mainly depends on the color of the concentration of the solution. As we know that according to Beer-Lambert's law, absorption values are directly proportional to concentration of the unknown solution. So once the concentration increases, absorption values also increases. So in this particular experiment, in the case of colorimetry experiment, so we used to determine the color of the given compound, color intensity of the given compound in the form of absorption values. We have to measure the absorption values. So the measurement of absorption value is nothing but actually measurement of color. So metry means measurement. So that means in this experiment we are depending on the color intensity. So with respect to color intensity, we can able to identify the concentration of the unknown solution. So that is actually known as colorimetry. And this technique widely used in the case of biochemical industry. So biotechnology, bioinformatics, bio-related labs, they used to use like food industry or any other food related industries or cosmetic industries. So they used to use this kind of technique in order to understand the concentration of some of the color pigments. So they used to add some of the coloring agents in order to make some of the corresponding dye kind of stuff, any kind of stuff. So whenever there is a environment of color for the particular compound, so then we need actually this particular technique. So colorimetry is technique frequently used in biochemical investigations, which involves the quantitative estimation of color, which involves quantitative estimation of the color. So that is one thing. And so what type of compounds can able to exhibit the color? So color can be exhibited by any kind of compound, but the condition actually if that compound absorbing radiation from the visible region only. If any compound, any object, so if it is absorbing radiation from the 400 nanometers to 800 nanometers, definitely that compound can able to exhibit some particular color. So color can be produced by any substance when it binds with color forming chromogens. Maybe initially there is a colorless compound. The best example actually, what is the color of the benzene? What is the color of the benzene? Benzene actually colorless. But if you see what is this actually? This is the nitrobenzene. So this is the nitrobenzene. What is the difference between color benzene and nitrobenzene? Only NO2 group. But due to presence of this NO2 group, this is actually yellow in color. This compound actually yellow in color. So like this, so maybe initially that particular compound is colorless in nature, but due to the addition of the another color forming chromogens. So in this case, this is actually NO2 group chromogen. Then that compound actually showing some particular color like this. So color can be produced by any substance. So in this manner. So color can be exhibited by any substance. So when it is binds with any color forming chromogens in this manner. And another point actually, the difference in color intensity results. For example, the first compound actually having very dark color like this. This is actually very dark color like this. The second compound actually pale color like this. So both are actually color compounds only, but even though both are actually blue color solutions, but their intensity, color intensity actually in the first case there is very dark blue in color, the second case there is actually pale blue in color. So that is actually color intensity. So the difference in color intensity indicates the difference in concentration of the solution. So that difference value actually reflected in the form of absorption values. If the more intensity is there, So that compound actually having more absorption value. If less intensity is there, that compound shows actually less absorption value. So that we will discuss why reason for that. The only reason actually, this is the relation. According to Beer-Lambert's law, absorption value directly proportional to the concentration of the unknown solution. So this is the dark color solution means what? That solution actually having more amount of compound, color producing compound. This is the pale compound means what? So this compound actually having less amount of color producing compound. So both are actually having different concentration. So the first compound actually having more concentration and the second compound actually having less concentration. Once the concentration decreases, corresponding absorption values also decreases. So that is the third point. The difference in color intensity results in the difference in the absorption of light. They will absorb different wavelength. They will absorb different wavelength. So that is one of the reason. And intensity of the color directly proportional to the concentration of the compound being measured. This is the relation. So this is the relation is very important. The intensity of the color, that means absorption values, directly proportional to the concentration of the corresponding absorbing medium. So in colorimetry, these points are actually very important. So by this knowledge, I am going to take one example in order to understand the what is colorimetry, how it is useful to measure the unknown solution concentration. So let us start with, and here also we can understand, so what is the meaning of complementary color? So let us see that this is actually blue indicator, this is actually one of the red indicator. So initially we are sending different colors towards this indicator, but this indicator actually absorbing first three colors like this, red, orange, yellow, but is actually emitting green, blue and violet. So these three colors combines each other and producing some kind of resultant blue color like this. So that is what we are seeing actually. So this is actually called complementary color to be blue color. In the second case, this red indicator actually absorbing these three colors, green, blue, violet, and it is actually transmitting red, orange, yellow in this manner. So these three colors actually combining each other and producing red color like this. So this is the complementary color we are seeing from the color wheel like this. So like this, always the absorbed radiation is different and the corresponding compound what of the color it is showing, that is actually different. That is actually called complementary color. So that is mainly because of the combination of various wavelengths. So that we have to understand. So let us start the. So what is the instrumentation of the colorimeter or any spectrophotometer? What are the different parts are actually available in the instrumentation? So what is the first thing we need actually? We need light source. So this is the light source. So this light source, so generally in the case of colorimetry, it is from the visible range only. Visible range, that means 400 to 800 nanometers only. So this is the light source. So it is initially, this is not the monochromatic light. It can able to send the light in all the directions. But once this colorimeter and this monochromator is there, so this results, this light source actually generating 7 different colors like this, and among these one of the radiation actually moving toward the unknown sample. So this is the unknown sample, our required unknown sample, one of the colored solution. So here the dark yellow color indicates that initial intensity. Initially we are sending 100% light, 100% one of the wavelength toward this sample. So this sample actually absorbing depending upon the different types of electronic transitions, either because of the N2 pi star transition, or either because of the pi 2 pi star transition, or because of the N2 sigma star or N2 pi star, something like that. So this compound absorbing some amount of light radiation, the remaining radiation actually coming outside. So this is the intensity of the transmit radiation and this is the intensity of the incident radiation, and this compound absorbing some amount of radiation in this manner, and how much amount of radiation absorbed. So that is actually detected by this detector. This detector actually calculating absorbance value by using Beer-Lambert's law equation, epsilon C into L. So we know what is the concentration of, if we don't know this value, so we initially will get the absorption value, from that also we can able to calculate the concentration value. So this detector actually displays the corresponding absorption value in this manner, 0.45 or 0.55, or 0.01 or something like that. So from these absorption values we can able to determine the concentration of unknown solution. So now these different segments parts are available in the case of corresponding colorimeter. What is the first thing? Actually we have a light source. After that the light enters into the monochromator, so where it is actually converting into different wavelengths, and this slit actually allowing one type of radiation toward the unknown sample. So initially we have a 100% intensity, but once this compound absorbing one of the radiation, the remaining radiation actually coming outside. So this detector actually detecting the how much amount of energy absorbed and how much amount of energy actually transmitted. So it will do some kind of calculation. Finally it shows actually corresponding absorption values only. So by using these absorption values we can able to measure the concentration of unknown solution. So that we will see by taking one of the example. So the main principle involved in the case of colorimetry or UV visible spectroscopy, so that is nothing but actually Beer-Lambert's law. So this point we already discussed in the previous sessions also. The main principle involved in the case of UV spectroscopy actually Beer-Lambert's law. According to Beer-Lambert's law, the absorption of the given color medium depends on the concentration as well as path length, this path length. So A is equal to epsilon into C into L. So in this case C indicates the concentration in terms of molarity or in terms of normality, whatever it is, and L indicates the length of this cuvite or this cell. So because from here to here light actually traveling, from here to here light actually traveling. So up to that point we have a absorbing medium. So that is the path length, L value, and here the epsilon actually called molar absorption coefficient or molar extension coefficient. So that we can able to determine by using following equation. Epsilon is equal to absorption value divided by C into L. So if we have a unit concentration, unit path length, so that system actually having unit absorption value. So at that time how much amount of epsilon value is there, that is actually defined as molar extension coefficient. So for detecting the molar absorption coefficient, always we have to use the 1 molar solution and 1 centimeter path length. So at that time how much amount of absorbance value is there, so that absorption value actually called corresponding epsilon value. Okay, so this is the main principle on the case of colorimetry. So let us see the example. So our example actually estimation of amount of manganese plus 7 present in unknown potassium permanganate solution. So potassium permanganate solution is one of the colored solution, dark pink in color. So if you want to know the concentration of potassium permanganate, so generally you can go for the colorimetry titration. So what is the permanganate solution means? KMnO4. So this is nothing but actually in solution medium it actually forms K plus ion and manganese permanganate ion like this. MnO4 minus like this, and this is the corresponding structure of the permanganate anion. So that is actually tetrahedral nature in this manner. Okay, so if you see the manganese electronic configuration, generally that is actually 4s2 3d5, but in this case manganese actually available in +7 state, because this is -2, this is -2, this is -2, this is -1. So -6 and -1, and the corresponding charge actually +1. So manganese actually available in +7 state. So +7 means these 5 electrons and these 2 electrons both are actually removed. So that means it is actually having 4s0 and 3d0 configuration. That means according to crystal, this is actually one of the tetrahedral complex. In the case of tetrahedral complex, what is the splitting pattern? Whenever 5 different orbitals like this, E orbital's energy decreases, T2 orbital's energy actually increases. So this is the energy gap between the corresponding d orbitals. But in the case of Mn plus 7, we have a d0 configuration. That means we don't have any electrons. But that means there is no kind of DD electronic transitions in the case of manganese plus silicon, but still this compound shows intense peak color actually. So how it is possible? So that is not properly explained in the crystal field theory, but we can able to explain by using molecular orbital theory. So according to molecular orbital theory, what is there? So we have to form the corresponding M1 energy level diagram. So here, this is the molecular orbital energy levels in the case of corresponding MnO4 minus kind of compound like this. So sorry, this is actually E only. This is not the EZ. This is actually T2 only. We know that tetrahedral compound actually one of the unsymmetric compound. So we have to write E and T2 symbols only. Don't write T2Z and EZ kind of symbol. So this is E orbitals, this is T2 orbitals. And these are ligand orbitals. We have 4 different ligands. These are the ligand sigma bond forming orbitals, and these are the ligand pi bonding forming orbitals. So these are the levels actually generated from the symmetry group 3 concept. After that we have done actually linear combination between the metal d orbitals and the ligand orbitals. So from that concept, so these are the bonding levels, sigma bonding level, pi bonding level, and these are the corresponding E orbitals, T2 orbitals from the metal, and these are the corresponding pi star anti-bonding and sigma star anti-bonding level. But among these levels are actually belongs to ligand, and these levels are actually belongs to ligand anti-bonding level. So in between we have a E orbitals and T2 orbitals. But if you see these ligand orbitals having 4 different pair of electrons like this, even though E orbitals, T2 orbitals doesn't have any electrons, but the corresponding ligands are actually having some number of electrons like this. So from these excitations are actually possible in this manner, like this or like this, or initially electrons goes to here, from here to here, or from here to here. So some transitions actually possible. So that means this indicates that in the case of tetrahedral complex like this, in the case of potassium permanganate, so what is there means we have a 4 different types of transitions like this. Red, what is the red? From metal to metal, metal to metal, metal D E orbitals to metal T2 orbitals. So there is a, so from metal to metal there is a transfer of electrons. Once there is a first excitement from here to here, so after that these electrons excited to the next E orbit, T2 orbitals, that is metal to metal charge transfer transition, that is possible. Or the second one actually, second one, this one, green one. So these are ligand orbital level, and these are the metal orbital level. From ligand to metal charge transfer actually possible. And third one also, from metal to ligand, so charge transfer actually possible. And from ligand to ligand, pi bonding to pi star anti-bonding, ligand to ligand transfer also possible. So in the case of MO energy level diagram of potassium permanganate, we can able to see 4 different kind of transitions: metal to metal charge transfer, or ligand to metal charge transfer, or metal to ligand charge transfer, or ligand to ligand charge transfer. But among the most intense transition actually ligand to metal charge transfer, this one, the second one, ligand to metal charge transfer. So due to this particular transition, some of the electrons available in the ligand pi orbitals are actually enters into the metal orbitals. This is also T2 only, not T2Z, T2 only, metal orbitals only. So this particular transition requires 445 nanometers energy. So this particular transition actually requires 445 nanometers energy. So that is the reason this compound actually absorbing from the visible region, 400 to 800 defined as visible region, and this particular compound actually absorbing 445 nanometers in order to excite the pi bonding electrons to the metal d orbitals, empty metal d orbitals in this manner. So this particular transition actually possible whenever if we send light towards the potassium permanganate compound. So generally for the sun radiation contains all types of radiations. So that is white light. If we send white light towards the KM of a solution, it is actually absorbing 545 nanometers, and then the remaining colors actually coming outside, and those colors actually combining each other and forming corresponding complementary color, that is actually purple in nature in this manner. So this is the main reason why potassium permanganate actually showing color. So this entire thing, what I am trying to explain actually, according to the d electron configuration, if you see the d electron configuration, so there is no d electrons. In most of the cases, transition metals are actually colored in nature because of the dd transitions only. In most of the cases, transition metals are actually exhibiting color mainly because of the corresponding dd transitions. But in this case, we don't have any d electrons because in this example, manganese present in +7 state. So D0 configuration. That means these transitions are actually not possible. E to T2 transition actually not possible. But if you see the corresponding MO energy level diagram, so ligands are actually having some amount of sigma bonding orbitals and pi bonding orbitals. So those orbitals are already occupied by some number of electrons. And metal d orbitals are actually completely empty because we don't have any metal electrons. So from here, from ligand to this metal d orbitals, there is a one kind of transition like this. This particular transition actually possible in the case of potassium permanganate, and this particular transition requires 545 nanometers energy. 545 nanometers energy. So that is in the region of visible light, 400 to 800. So therefore, this compound shows resultant purple in color like this.